Joining the show now is Matt Waldman, one of the smartest football guys that if you're not following Matt's work, and especially when you're leading up to the draft and following his scouting portfolio of rookies that are coming out, you're doing yourself a disservice. So for anybody that isn't familiar with Matt's work that's tuning in here today, make sure you continue to follow his work. And he does things throughout the season with film review, and he helps make all of us smarter football fans. And so I certainly wanted to bring you on here today because I saw you were doing a lot of film work here over the last 24 hours since, the tough showing that the Bears offense had in Houston on Sunday Night Football. And so that's basically where I want to start with you, is with Caleb Williams. That's all, we're honed in on here in Chicago. And, with your film review, there was some good, some bad, but are you seeing progress at this point, or was there some regression from, the first 2 weeks of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, and I'd kind of like to reframe the question just a little bit, because I think we want to look forward to the idea of, like, do guys get better every week? And growth isn't linear, and so that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind, especially with a position like quarterback, which has so many facets to it, to be able to, for these players to really integrate the physical, conceptual, the technical of their games into something that's going to be productive. So really, most scouts, like in the NFL, they'll tell you it takes about 18 to 30 games to really see what a quarterback has. And I look at the first 6 games as those are the games that most NFL teams are just playing their basic looks defensively, what they do with normal game plans, without adding anything special on top of what Caleb's doing. And as a result of that, they wait to develop it, get probably about 6 to 7 weeks of scouting reports before they start slowly implementing things that they think Caleb has shown that he can't do or struggles doing, and they make him prove it. That's why a lot of quarterbacks, sometimes as rookies, start off great, and then suddenly they just sink for a while, and then we never hear from them again. Like Marcus Mariota with 5 touchdowns in his rookie debut, or Will Levis with 5 touchdowns with his rookie debut. I don't think anyone here would probably say that either of those guys are looking like, long-term starters. That said, when I looked at Caleb Williams, the important part was when he made mistakes, did his game fall apart? When he wasn't accurate, were there reasons for it that made sense? And did he keep the game? Did he manage the game correctly? And that's something that falls apart with a lot of players. I used to see it with Mitchell Trubisky back at North Carolina, that he could not manage in the black zone or in the red zone. He would not learn. He wouldn't throw balls away when he was under pressure. When somebody wasn't coming open, he tried too hard to make things happen. When you look at Caleb in this game, despite the constant onslaught of pressure that he dealt with and the inability for the Bears line to handle twists on a regular basis, he only had maybe one bad play from the pocket dealing with pressure that was on him, where he actually drifted into the pressure as opposed to climbing the pocket or staying in there. And then even after he made some mistakes with maybe some less than accurate throws that turned into interceptions, or he missed opportunities, he didn't do what Jordan Love did early in his career, or Levis does, which is completely fall apart and start making decisions that ruin your team. He kept the team in it. So to me, that's a huge aspect of his game, is that he was emotionally composed enough to still see the forest through the trees, to keep his team in position to make positive plays, even if he wasn't always making them or missing opportunities. He wasn't doing it in a manner where this easily could have been like a 15 or 20 point loss if he fell apart, especially deep in his own red zone. He didn't do that. He kept them in the game till the very end.
So if Caleb was sitting there right now and Coach Matt had a second with him, hey, Matt, what are you seeing 2 games in? Give me the number one thing that you think that right now I need to learn so I can be that much better going into week 3. What would you pick?
I would say over the course of time, it'd be something to plant a seed over the course of time, but I want you to continue focusing on reading safeties late pre-snap, early post-snap, so that you can identify the opportunities that are going to lead to bigger plays. And I think that comes with time and continued film study, where you can see, in that game against the Texans for sure, where you'd see the safeties rotate late and it was disguised until the last moment. And he had maybe one-on-one opportunities. In this game, there was a one-on-one opportunity on a deep post to DJ Moore, but he was looking to the left side of the field. But if he had seen the rotation that was happening late pre-snap and really put two and two together as he was making the read with the back and looking at the safety widening out to the right flat, he would have known he had that one-on-one with Moore, with the other safety that was playing deeper, outside the left hash. And he could have driven that ball for what might have been a score, So he has opportunities like that I think will come over the course of time. But I think more than anything, I would just say, just stay patient and keep grinding with, trying to understand defenses, make sure that you have rapport with your teammates. You didn't have Keenan Allen in this game, who's going to be like a second quarterback on the field for you with reads and adjustments that are opportunities for you to make. So when Keenan comes back, I think that'll be a little bit better. But continue, and I would just validate things he did well. Continue stepping up in the pocket. Continue throwing things away if you get away from one guy and you don't find anybody open. He missed some throws that he was very close to making that I think he set the bar too high preseason and at USC tape, where he was making those types of throws off script or outside the pocket or on the move, where some of those sail routes down or over deep overs across the field, where he's thrown it 30-40 yards down the field, and he missed a couple of those in this game. I would just say, honestly, just keep doing what you're doing because you're on the right track.
Before Greg gets in here, I'm just going to make a slight adjustment. Matt, slide yourself in the pocket to the left just to drop. There you go. Stay right there. Now you can go, Greg.
Scottish Bear in the chat here is saying, if you could pull that up, Steven. He says, I'd advise everyone to purchase Matt Waldman, the rookie scouting portfolio. It's every yearly evaluation. Matt Waldman is a genius evaluator. It's available for download, and that is 100% the truth. I was just telling these guys, I linked them your evaluation of Justin Fields as he came out with the Chicago Bears, and it was impressive in the moment to watch your evaluation of what Justin Fields could be as a quarterback, but then even more impressive as the years went on, because a lot of the things you said certainly held serve. So I guess that's where I want to go with Caleb Williams. Your evaluation of Caleb Williams coming out of USC, knowing he's going to get drafted by the Bears, and then translating that to what you've seen here these first 2 weeks. Because, Caleb Williams, he's not like Josh Allen, who, might be more of an unknown. Caleb Williams is on the national stage every week. We all watched him play the last 3 years. He won a Heisman Trophy. And I guess the biggest thing for me that I don't know if the word's concerning, but the thing that I wasn't anticipating is, and I understand there's a lot of chaos going on, but the accuracy right now I thought would be a little more on point, and it's just all over the place right now. So just your interpretation of what you've seen from your scouting to what you're seeing now, and your thoughts on his accuracy issues right now, because I know you mentioned that earlier,
Sure.
as far as making sense of that.
Well, I think with accuracy, one of the things that happens is there's a lot going on beneath that, in the sense that quarterback is a performance position that's like on a stage. And as a result of that, you're as I talked about, integrating a lot of different skills. So when you're learning a new offense, you're also facing defenses that are far more complex at how they disguise everything. And the players are much faster all around. And everybody was a top college player that you're facing on that defensive unit for the most part. It's a major jump. And it's a major jump from preseason to regular season. Because how many guys lead the NFL in quarterback rating, their rookie year in the preseason, who we never hear from again, who are just backups? Brett Hundley, Bruce Gradkowski, Skylar Thompson, who I like kind of, but we'll see how Skylar does now 3 years in. But it's a long list of names like that. So the preseason is kind of like playing SEC football, but with like a lot of different, how would I put it? A lot of different people coming in and out of the game and not a lot of rapport. So looking at this right now, what's happening is that he's probably thinking so much about, what he's seeing on the field and trying to make sure that he's accurate with all the things that he has to manage because he doesn't have that as ingrained as he will next year. That it's causing him to think a little bit more, and it slows down every kind of process or forces him to rush things in a matter where you're going to be a step off or 2 steps off with a throw. You're going to wait too long to get rid of the ball, or you're going to overthink things. So for me, this is, it's one of those things where you have to understand that it's a year-long process to become very good at ingraining this level of the game to the point where you're not thinking about it. Because if you think as a quarterback, then you're a beat late on when to pull the trigger on a throw. Or if you start thinking about it in the middle of your process, now the process is inaccurate. So to me, this is just this is just one of those things that if we start looking week to week, it's like watching grass grow. You're not going to see it happen. And then if you think you saw it happen, it was probably due to something else. Like, you had too many beers the night before, or somebody slipped something, in your coffee that you didn't realize was there. And now you're seeing colors that grass really isn't. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so I think
I know what you're saying. I took mushrooms a few times.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And you look at like what Michelle Maddow's saying about Kurt Warner, Kurt Warner being a former quarterback, he's one of the things that I know about Kurt that a lot of former quarterbacks are good at is talking about scheme. And they're like kind of the grammarians of quarterback analysis. They don't get very super philosophical, and they know about their scheme and their experience, and they apply their experience to it, which is not necessarily scouting and watching development. It's really about pointing out errors and pointing out from their perspective, how they approach things within their system. And I think Kurt Warner does that great, but it's also not scouting and projecting development. And scouts will tell you that year one, we got to give the guy time and room to understand what he can and can't get away with. The things that he needs to getting off the pocket and making certain throws that he made at USC is different than what he's going to have to do against the defensive front of guys who are all faster than anybody that he probably faced in the Pac-10.
What I'm hearing that you're saying, Matt, and this is something that I've heard from a lot of guys who played the game or watched the game intently. It is, forget about what CJ Stroud did last year. First year quarterbacks who haven't sat and learned the learning curve, the steepness of it is incredibly high and incredibly difficult to do it. So just as an overall general point, in your ideal world, would you tell an organization, do not play a rookie quarterback in his first year? He's not ready.
1,000% in most cases, because to me, I believe when you look back at quarterbacks who've won Super Bowls or have been Pro Bowl or all pro caliber players, ranging from guys like Steve McNair and Drew Brees to Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Brett Favre, you can move forward with a lot of those guys. They got intermittent playing time. They started, they got benched. When things got too fast for them, their coaches sat them down and said, hey, watch the veteran do this. Come back, Jordan Love getting to sit for a while. Jordan Love would not be what he was last year if he didn't have to sit all that time, because he was a guy who would melt down just at like a pinprick of a mistake at Utah State. So you're looking with Caleb Williams, though, when I did a scouting report on him, what I felt was if there is a quarterback who could survive the onslaught of being a rookie on a team that has some clear weaknesses that could make his first season tough, he's the one. So, and that's really what I expect, is that If it's not a good offensive line, you get the crap beat out of you. And think about the fact that when you're taking hits like he had on Sunday, imagine you put your hand in a windowsill and someone slams the windowsill on your hand. Oop, my bad. You'll probably put your hand back in the windowsill that next time and not be worried about it. But if someone kidnapped you and sadistically kept slamming the windowsill on your hand as a form of punishment every hour on the hour, you probably start breaking out in a cold sweat when you see an open window just walking through your house once you're rescued. And I think that happens cumulatively to quarterbacks throughout the course of the game. So the fact that, Williams has the wherewithal to still continuing to make decisions without completely melting down is the most encouraging thing. And that sounds basic. I know people want to see him making those highlight passes. They want to see him raising up all the boats this year. But really, even Patrick Mahomes, he got almost a full year to sit, behind Alex Smith. And that was very important to him. So the fact that Caleb's got to work through this and that early on he's not melting down, to me, just validates that he is the most prepared to handle this.
Yeah, no, you're right. After week 1, a lot of people were commending Caleb for not turning the ball over, but I felt there was times that there was tip passes that easily could have been picked off. And the thing that, to your point, that was most impressive to me is in the fourth quarter, while they only got a couple field goals and a 2-point conversion, that was after all the chaos of Tavondre Sweat and Jonathan Simmons. And for him to be able to do that in his first game was really impressive to me. So, okay, not going to have a C.J. Stroud rookie year. I think we're already to that point where we have to come to grips with that reality. But in the last 10 years, you look at rookie quarterbacks, specifically first-round picks coming out, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Newton. Quarterbacks are more prepared to jump in their rookie season more than they ever had been back when we were growing up, in the early days of football. So how does Shane Waldron, because everybody's talking about personnel and everybody's talking about the play calling, because in a fans' world, that's the most simplistic way of trying to say this is how you fix things when it's way more complex than that. But how does Shane Waldron try to put Caleb Williams in a position where he can succeed while still having this large developmental curve of learning so much about the nuances of the game?
Yeah, I think that what you have is when I scout players, I often say that there's two broad ends of each spectrum. The one end of the spectrum is what I call a schemed up player. Like Gabriel Davis is a good example of a schemed up player. He's not going to get open on his own as much as he's going to have the team run play action and misdirection to get him open. Like they're going to work to make him the primary off of types of plays where they're going to do a lot of work as a collective to make sure he's open. Whereas a matchup players like Stephon Diggs in his prime, who can run any route, and Jalen Ramsey in his prime can be on him on 3rd and 16, and he knows that the out route's coming, and he still can't stop it. Okay? That's the ends of those spectrum. For quarterbacks, Malik Willis last week against, who did they play last week that I'm trying to remember? Oh, against the Colts. Yeah. That I've watched so many games this week that it kind of jumbles together. But against the Colts, they did a lot of schemed plays with him. Screens, RPOs, different throwouts, different rollouts where he had limited choices to make. But because the run game was working, because they could get into a rhythm, they utilized his athletic ability to a good effect, and they were able to formulate a good game plan around his strengths. Well, Caleb Williams, to me, is eventually going to become a very good matchup quarterback. He has those skills to be that guy who can create. But early on, if your offensive line isn't your help, scheme more plays up. Do more plays. And they're hard to do because teams sniff them out, and it forces your offense coordinator to have to work harder to create more original types of plays, and you have to get these things down. But more things with misdirection, more things with motion, more things with play action, where there's maybe quicker reads, quicker execution, and then you can open some things up maybe for some big plays down the line here. But I think that's that may be helpful, is that you're not asking him right away to make Aaron Rodgers type of decisions or Tom Brady type of decisions. Let him err on the side of being Malik Willis, even, in Green Bay last week, and let him do some more simple things and have it work out. I mean, look, game planning is a good example. I'm down here in Atlanta, and real quickly, Kirk Cousins, like for the past 2 weeks, I think he hasn't thrown more than 2 balls over 20 yards down the field, up the boundaries, coming off that Achilles where you can't plant that front foot and generate torque. And you can tell they're protecting him. When he has to throw it to the boundaries inside of 20 yards, it's low. It seems weak as a throw. And they just beat the Philadelphia Eagles with an offensive game plan that was able to work for them because they established the run. They could work the edges with the run and with screen passes and quick scheme plays. And then they could let Kurt read the field in the middle of the field, complementing off of that. So I think if they can just find ways to maybe simplify things a little bit, let him get a rhythm, let him kind of get into the game that way, and let defenses kind of come up with solutions and you come up with counters, I think that might be a little bit better off for the offense.
Matt, the entire chat here, or at least half of it probably, everyone's pointed at the offensive line. And Matt Eberflus got up there and was asked about, it's like, hey, look, not just the O-line, it's the running backs, it's the quarterback, it's the tight ends. He's including everybody in it. When you look at the Bears' failure to be able to protect Caleb and run the ball, how much are you putting that on the play calling and the scheme versus just this is a rookie quarterback who maybe is not quite ready to set the whole thing up for success?
Yeah, and I think that's what tells you is he's probably right. One, he's right philosophically to answer to the media that it's our team, so that he doesn't single anybody out and throw them under the bus right away. He's trying to provide that type of leadership and instill that with that our quarterback's the figurehead. And there's a valid point that Caleb may not have all the freedom to make changes at the line or may not be recognizing certain changes to make adjustments to protections based on what defenses are disguising. And you could see on the tape that there were some instances, as I said earlier, where maybe he didn't see the late pre-snap, post-snap disguises that he could do some work with there. But at the same time, we're not in the era of football where we're making Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning wait for 25 seconds and then make the play call and read the defense and get them to show something and then make the adjustment. We're not really in that era as much anymore. So really part of that too is you can create, again, that goes back to maybe creating more scheme plays where you don't have to make those types of assessments as often. So I'd say there may be some elements there. The offensive line and the backs obviously have to execute, so they have to be communicating well in terms of, and maybe part of that is Caleb having to send these backs to one side or tight ends to one side to account for different twists or potential blitz looks or different alignments where guys are going to get through gaps easily and they need to do that. But I also saw a lot of offensive line. Everyone saw a lot of offensive line failures where linemen weren't blocking edge defenders and were helping out on double teams and just letting guys go right through. And the back either wasn't sent to the correct side or the back wasn't really even part of that equation. It seemed to be more about the guard, center, tackle, and what they were assigned to. So it is a complete issue, and I understand how a coach may look at it and say, I know it was only one play on Caleb, or it was only one play on the running back, but the gravity of those plays outweigh maybe 2 or 3 plays that we saw with the offensive line. Sometimes that happens too, is that the gravity of one play can be much greater than a series of plays.
Matt, really appreciate you coming on here today. I definitely hope to have you back. You just have such an extended knowledge of the game that really helps people like me understand it at another level. So again, for everybody that's tuned in, make sure you're going to his website, downloading his rookie scouting portfolio that he does every single year as you lead up to the draft. Obviously, we do a lot of draft coverage here, but Matt, you're somebody that I lean on to try to help me be a little more educated with the endless amount of people coming out in the draft. I mean, you and like I said, my guy Draft Dr. Phil, you guys grinded all the way down to knowing who even the undrafted guys are and who the guys in the back end of the 7th round are. So if there's any other work that you want to promote here real quick, maybe give a shout out to the viewers that want to kind of know where to find you and where to follow your work.
Sure, I appreciate that. I've been doing the rookie scouting portfolio for 20 years now. This is my 20th season. You can find information on it at mattwaldman.com. I evaluate quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. I provide scouting reports to guys like Will Hewlett, who is the position coach who trained pre-draft guys like Caleb, Brock Purdy, Anthony Richardson. He's worked with those guys. I provide scouting reports to him and Tom Gormley, who've been featured about the work that they do with pro quarterbacks. You can find me also at mattwaldmanrsp.com, where I provide lots of different film room reviews from my YouTube channel, Matt Waldman RSP's Film Room. I have over 800 videos on there, some with guests, some just on my own, breaking down all these different prospects and the fundamentals there. And I'm a fantasy guy. I'm a senior staff writer at footballguys.com. They're a great site. I have a lot of great people on that. And so I write about 5 columns a week for them during the season. And then, and while I'm scouting tape. And then, of course, you can find my podcast, Matt Waldman's RSP Cast, on just pretty much any outlet. And I work with a Chicago area guy by the name of Brandon Angela. You should get him on your show if you have a chance. Brandon is a former running back at Purdue whose highlight of his career may have been that he got beat by Tyreek Hill in an all-SEC freshman event, and they were laughing at Tyreek thinking this short guy's not going to beat us. But he's a former running back. He's a trainer to pro athletes, and we do a podcast together. He's fantastic. So, you can check all that out. MattWaldman.com or MattWaldmanRSP.com. You'll find stuff there.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt, for all your time.
Matt, I want to hire you to read to me at night. Your voice is so soothing that I think
my wife likes the fact that I tell her occasionally that I get people saying that, and they go, my wife says you're the only person that she can listen to on podcasts, of the football podcast that I do, to go to sleep. And I'm going, so I tell my wife that as a flex, and she laughs, and that's. But
you should flex on that. Hey, Matt, we'll do this again. So thanks so much for the time.
Thanks, Greg. Take care, fellas.
We all silly like the mayor.